Welcome, Rebels, in this episode.
So if we're talking about how do you liberate people's rebellious nature, I think some people, I'm thinking of some of the clients I had. One in particular is kind of a good story, who I remember in a class one time I said, during a break, I said, "What the hell is your problem?" And he said, "This is all bullshit. You know, you're telling me that leaders do this and leaders do that." And I said, I don't see it. I don't see anybody here in this company doing that. And yet he turned out, we barely are in touch, but we stayed in touch for 40 years. And I can't tell you how often he would call to say, "Can you work with me and my leadership team to do an X or Y or Z?" Because he wanted to believe it, but he didn't see it. When you think about who is it that rebels, it's something's not right in their world. Something's not right, and it's enough to be angry about it, I think.
You're listening to the Red Couch Rebels, a safe, comfy space for vulnerability and self-growth. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Erin.
We are seekers and self-advocates.
Yeah, we're not your doctors.
Or your therapists.
No, we're just fellow seekers on our own journeys of self-discovery.
Explore your inner rebel with us.
Let's sink in.
All right, we are back with Dr. Alan Patterson, and it is a joy to have him back on the Red Couch. Our conversations always kind of come back around to the ladder burning concept, and I think that fits in with the idea of rebelling, and there's something too about how, and it came up in Caitlin's recording, Caitlin Keneally, how oftentimes she starts with people's like core values and how that translates into their work. And I think we are often limited by our work and or use that as maybe not an excuse, but like that's often part of what gets in the way of us, I don't know, stepping into our full authenticity, or maybe experiencing the freedom of what we want out of our lives. So I don't know. I feel like there's something with this idea of work and relationships and how we define success in our lives for ourselves and as a society. And I don't know. I mean, I think part of it too is, and Erin, you mentioned it just before we jumped on, like the idea of like as an employee or an associate of a company, but then also from a leadership standpoint, like what can you do to support that, you know, rebel nature of a ladder burner and do it in a way that's not alienating people, but really bringing everybody closer together.
You know, you think who tend to be the biggest rebels, kind of unconsciously? Who are those people that just by nature are rebels?
Youngest children.
You think so?
That explains a lot.
Are you the youngest, Alan? I can't recall.
Am I? Yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay.
I just recently was sent Matt a video clip that was talking about this. I can't remember which podcast it was on, but they were saying that like all the other roles in the family start getting chipped off as children are born, right? So you have the achiever and the pleaser, and you have all these roles, but the youngest born has less to choose from. So they tend to just rebel and just do their own thing. And they tend to be more creative because of that, because they're creating a new role for themselves. Matt said, yeah, that totally fits for you.
But I can see that.
There are many perks of being the youngest. And it's true. I'm sure I got away with a lot more than my siblings. But when I think of it, especially when I was writing the book, there's research out there, and there were a couple of books that really hit me about how other people characterized it when they're talking about rebels. Troublemakers, of course, we know. Not outcasts. I'm blanking on what the actual term was, but the characterization is pretty similar. It's that people that are it's a little strong, have an axe to grind. They're something's unsettling, something very unsettling to them. Now, I'm sure if you got into the psychodynamics of this, some of it is about how kids are, where they are in the pecking order and how they're treated by their parents or significant others or whoever raises them. I'm sure that's a part of it. I'm acting out because I'm not getting the attention I need. And some of it comes across, I think, Jenny, you and I have plenty of these, several of these discussions about, what's the difference between being really cynical and being a smart ass and being, as a old girlfriend used to call me, a smart Alan.
That's
I didn't
right.
realize I didn't realize it went that far back. And it's a thing if you're that way. I don't know, Erin, if the youngest has anything to do with it, but I always felt it's that it's enough of an internal push to be different or not feeling, to be different. I mean, I think some of the cockeyed ways I thought of that, it's like, I'll go somewhere. I'll go to the Catholic Church in high school with my friends because I would be different. I wouldn't be a Catholic inside the Catholic Church. Okay, well, that's hardly a big deal. So if we're talking about how do you liberate people's rebellious nature, I think some people, I'm thinking of some of the clients I had. One in particular is kind of a good story, who I remember in a class one time I said, during a break, I said, "What the hell is your problem?" And he said, "This is all bullshit. You're telling me that leaders do this and leaders do that." And I said, I don't see it. I don't see anybody here in this company doing that. And yet he turned out, we barely are in touch, but we stayed in touch for 40 years. And I can't tell you how often he would call to say, "Can you work with me and my leadership team to do an X or Y or Z?" Because he wanted to believe it, but he didn't see it. And he was angry enough to be that kid in class, hardly a kid, that the strategic deviant, that's not my term, but I love it, that would sit in the front of the class with their head down on their desk. Or like a guy did with me when I was teaching a course at UWM. He came in, sat right in front of me, and for about 40 fucking minutes, he filled out a crossword puzzle.
Oh my God.
And I said, "We need to talk."
Yeah, why are you here?
Why are you here? And why are you sitting in front of me filling out a crossword puzzle? So you get that kind of behavior, which I don't know is always that particular stuff. That's just there's something it's not malevolent, but there's something a little more needy there. But when you think about who is it that rebels, it's something's not right in their world. Something's not right. And it's enough to be angry about it, I think. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's just enough to say, oh, I don't like that. I can wax way too hardly eloquent on this election, and the trepidation and misunderstanding and all the stuff that everybody, I think, that feels a stake in this feels. But it's the rebellious nature is the rebellious part, I think, is doing something about it. So it starts to shape what you do and how you do it. I will never not be a smartass. And part of it is that there is a sin. I understand it. I mean, I can go the other way on some stuff and be very cynical about it. But what makes somebody cynical? They're either negative about everything, or they're negative because something's not fulfilled. And if they do something about it, it could be. But having said that, I think that's pretty fascinating. I'm looking, one is called, one book, and I think maybe we talked about it. Jenny, was called Rebel Talent, and why people that are that way make some of the best leaders. It's because something's not fulfilled. And there's a yearning to do something about it. Education's not right. Well, it's not. But look at Treffert Way. It's like, okay, well, maybe that's something we could dig into, because that's not a screw you. It's okay, here's a way to get some of this done without it being, without having to grab tons of attention. So I think being rebellious comes from something. And while you don't want people to lose it, I think something over time is that if you're with people that are the same way, and I don't want to say that this is simply a progressive agenda. I think it's a willingness to act on something. I'm taking it from the better side. That's important enough to you that it generates movement. It's not. You do something about it. So how do you harness that in people? What you do, what one does. I think, maybe I'm wrong, I think it's part of the purpose of what you two have talked about, is you give people permission to stop doing all that shit they don't have to do, that's just piled on, because that would, you want to blame somebody? Blame your parent, blame your mother. Don't even blame your parents, just blame your mother, because your mother, that's where it all comes from anyway. And it's like, okay, how far along, how deep do you get in this? Until you, at some point you say, okay, well, I'm going to shed that, and and that gives me permission, that gives me the strength, really. It's not just permission, to go do the stuff that I want to do. I'm not going to medical school. I quit. Mm-hmm. Oh, you little quitter? Yeah, I'm a big quitter.
And I like to how, Alan, you're layering on it and saying, like, there's this action piece that I think, like, there's the mentality, right, of that rebellious nature. And then it's like, okay, now what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where bringing people together and talk, like you said, giving permission, reminding people of their strength, and saying, now go do, burn those ladders, grab a shovel, dig in. It's what you've always said in our burn ladders, build bridges, work together. And yeah, it's what is getting in the way. We are getting in our own
way.
way.
There it is. I mean, that's exactly, you hit it because that's what I was thinking. You got the right answer because that's what I was thinking.
That's what Alan believes.
Well, like Ellen said, we've talked about this a lot.
A lot. Go ahead.
That said, there is a lot too in the systems around us that designed, created, whatever as they are, the ladder, the idea of climbing the ladder, that is something that prevents people. It's not just you getting in the way. That system is designed, and I think you talked a little bit about it in episode 1 as well, or your part 1. It's designed to get certain people to the top, and it's limited.
While I'm fashion myself as a social scholar, a social psychology scholar. I only wish. So I like that though. I'm a scholar, social psychology scholar. It's not an original idea, but it's an idea that sure stayed with me. Taking a course at college, undergrad, when graduate school, and the course was about Southern history, and so of course we talked a lot about slavery and the role of slavery. And the professor was brilliant, fella, and kind and nice, had a great Southern accent. Joel Williamson. So many tributes to him because of his beliefs and doing something that hadn't been done before. This was in the late 60s. At any rate, he talked about and you see it now, the importance of place in building a society. That people have certain roles. They are in a certain place that you can't violate. Like Black people in the South. White identity in the South, according to Joel Williamson, was based on Black identity. So you had to keep Black people, African American people, in their place. And when that's violated, it went from everything to hanging and lashing and, talk to a white woman. No, that's not your place. Emmett Till, some 100 years later. It's not your place. Oh, excuse me. Women have a place. If you would only, J.D. Vance, if you would only had followed his advice and just, I don't know, have kids and stay in the kitchen. What's so bad about
petting your cat? Sorry. This is going to air after the election, so we have no idea.
My point is this: when people feel, and so that's what the ladder is. You have a place, you have a spot, and that's, and you preserve the order. My God, you can't go around it. You can't write your own job description. You can't decide that you want to do what you really like to do, or even as the most competent person in the group. No, that's not how it works. I'm the boss, blah, 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 bleep, bleep. You have to preserve the order. And I think, I don't know, I do know where it's just how control gets brokered and built. And it's, so when you say, well, wait a minute, hold, stop. Where does it say I can't write my own job description? Show me. Right. I don't want to mention anything because this is so close to home, but there's something brewing in a school district in your neighborhood. And okay. I got online and heard a teacher say that this person had come to their building and had said that it was disgraceful. The school was disgraceful. They were all doing a lousy job. They're all doing a lousy job. So, well, that's pretty motivating.
Yeah.
And so that's when people become more attached to that level of authority or the self-importance. I thought when Twitter came out, which I've never really been on, I thought that's just kind of like the epitome of self-importance. Like, okay, I'm going to the bathroom now. Number 2. I haven't been number 2 in a couple of days. This is a big deal for me. It's like nobody cares. So you have an opinion, big friggin' deal. But I think once people understand there's really the connections that you can make, the discussions that you can have they're not prescribed all the time. But it doesn't mean you don't do it without thinking about it. Or I know the word of the decade is intent. It's like, I mean, I was taught this. This was not my expression, and I love it. It's, let me run this by you. What do you think about, what are your thoughts on? You know how powerful and empowering that can be? So what? I'm sorry, where they teach that? Nobody teaches you that. Marion Sheridan teaches you that by example. That's the kind of person that does it. Please, Jenny.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think, we're talking about this idea of nurturing that rebellion and the rebels in our homes and in our workplaces and spaces. And what we're saying is, okay, let's get rid of the structures and the systems in our mind, especially that we limit ourselves around. So that idea of climbing the ladder or, becoming this, powerhouse within an organization. And so we've eliminated that. Now comes the bridge building piece of it. And that's what you just said is so important. I think we are often quick to maybe put those boundaries up and then understand that, yeah, this is work, but we still need to invest in the relationships here and connect heart to heart. And that was a big piece of one of your chapters in your book, Alan, is moving head to heart. So how can we make time and space in our workday, which is really tough, especially with all the things on our plates, to know the people we're working with so that we can ask those sorts of things like, what do you think about this? Or just being more curious. And I know that fits into your rebel so well from our part 1 conversation. What do people need to know to help them make those friendships and build those relationships in the workplace? Because I know it's not easy for everyone.
Well, what do you have to know? This is let's dive into behavior change. How do you change behavior? You change the way people think, or you change what they do say before you change what they think. The behavioral way is you teach people what to say to someone else. You say you need to find out this person's position on X before we start working on stuff. My classic story. I was working down. This was a great gig. It was down in Puerto Rico. Oh, Puerto Rico's in the news. Working for this firm who I won't say was Bacardi, but it was pretty interesting. Anyway, it was with the finance group, and somebody told a great story talking about clarity, said that their boss told them to find out how much liquor was sold in India. So they put together a team and they locked themselves in a room. They spent 3 or 4 days, and they came back to this person and they said, here's the report. And she said, I just want a number. I don't want a report. I'm just asking a question. So you teach people what to ask and how to ask it. When you say, Erin, you've worked in this field. Give me your thoughts on this. It may not come natural. but I can ask the question. I think, Jenny, you did some of that with a group in North Fond du Lac, or they were out trying to find out information on something. So that's what you do to start. But what you're looking for, not a but, what you're looking for is that people really think that way. So it's, I don't have time to do this. Of course you do. It's not that big a deal. Nick called me the other day, left me a message. When was I available? I called him back. And what did he say? Oh, I just wanted to see how you were doing.
Aw, yeah.
So the point is, I think those are the things, those are the bridge building skills.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really when your daughter says, you know, I've got this idea, this way of approaching, and I'd like to try, and then she gets written up. It's like she's young and less experienced, but I would hope with age and more experience, she'd go, that's just about the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. She can't do that now. Well, she could just quit and say, but it doesn't compute. It just doesn't compute. So it's all the more reason again, Jenny and I talked about this for years and continue. It's like, you've got to go find those people. They're not going to find you. You got to find them. Some will find you, but no, go find them. They're there. Find those people. Your daughter's going to find somebody that's not just trying to be a smart ass or a smart Alan or a smart Alec. It's like, I don't know. I wonder if this would work. And that's what we're looking for. It's like, you could take anything, just for an example. You could do things that are not against the rules. Like, I don't know where and how this would happen, but imagine, let's say, Jenny, where you were working before, you had this unofficial contest with two different teams, and it's like, let's see who can get the first person to 1,000 likes on a something or other. And in life, what does that mean? Nothing. Doesn't mean anything, but it's fun, and it's something that you could do to get people working on stuff and producing a legitimate, I think it's a legitimate outcome. But who says you can't have fun? Who says you can't have people in education? Kids are having fun. They learn a hell of a lot of stuff. Yeah. Oh, well, make up a game. Oh, okay. So, let's try state capitals. What's the capital of Haitian? For all you Haitians out there, that's what J.D. Vance said. Well, these people are from Haitian. So anyway, I digress. That's what it is. That's the approach. And when does that come? Somewhere along the line, you have to shed. We have been the games we played. School teaches us, jobs teach us order. They teach us responsibility. None of that is bad. But somewhere along the line, it's like, well, you got to be the best. Best what? The best at what you do. It's good to be competent. Don't get me wrong. But it's not at the expense. It's not either or. And so when you realize what's really and truly important, and I'm biased there, so I'm saying that is an absolute standard. It's people that are really and truly important. Really. Mm-hmm. Not at the expense of everything else. It changes your whole perspective. Well, it's not about me. Well, wait a minute. I've spent 20, 30, 50 years working on it's all about me and what I get. And then it's like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
We're just all just kind of, as my uncle would say, he was brilliant doctor. He said, we're really just like grains of sand on the beach. You, Uncle Joe? No, you're a rock. Nah, not really.
There's a lot of great stuff in your book about what qualities to nurture in yourself to be, I'll use our term of the rebel, but to burn those ladders and build the bridges, like the qualities you need to work on. And maybe I'm partial in this, but do you believe the people that have those qualities are also better leaders?
Yeah, I do.
Which of the qualities would you name would be the most important?
Well, the overarching one, the overarching one is the ability to seek out and make those connections. And this is going to sound maybe a bit self-serving. I think one of the biggest skills required is understanding how to sell your ideas, because at the base of that is understanding how you listen. And then it's that how can you favorably impact other people? So there's, I don't know any other way to say it. There's an agenda there. It's not like, okay, I want to be a better person. I want to be a better person that makes a difference. That's the rebel part.
Yeah.
I don't just want to be a better person. Actually, I think it's too late for that, but it's like,
no,
but really,
it's not too late, and you are
go out. Hey, listen, yeah, no, I appreciate that, but it's like, well, come on.
How much better do you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what's the measure, right? Yeah. So as I was texting before we jumped on here, I found a snippet from a book that fits really well, because in your book and in our conversations, we've talked about like what's the measure of success that you're chasing, right? When you're climbing the ladder, you're chasing something outside of you, not that spark within you. And there was a book I was reading, I believe it's The Power of Emotion. Let me see if I can find it here. But there was a quote that stood out. I'm looking right past it. Here it is. It was, what if someone told you that the true measure of your success in life is your joy?
Oh my God.
And where do you find that joy? For me, I would say sometimes in the peace and quiet of nature and things like that, it's different, but real, true, like joy, laughter, connection, it's with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Seeing and being seen. Yeah. That's what it always comes back to for me, that connection.
What more can be said about that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How do we foster more of that? Well, one of the things that I feel, and I don't know if it's a combination of where I'm at and where, fellow friends and rebels are at, but I feel like right now there's a lot of individuals, and I will say it's primarily women, who are like raising kids, killing it in their career growth, like involved in the community. They are just exhausted, mm-hmm. and they keep going. And so it's so hard, because I get it. And at the same time, I want to say, like, well, there's still a choice in that to a degree, but yet then I also see them saying, well, what choice do I have, right? Like, what's going to give here? And so it seems like a really hard predicament to be in. Have you talked? I mean, you've done a ton in the coaching world, Alan, and helped, I'm sure, many, many people over the years. Are you noticing or seeing this shift any differently now versus, the years past in helping people and what you've offered?
I'm not sure what you mean by the shift that they're.
Well, just like it feels like there's more pressure to do it all and do it all really well. Like, take care of the family, do really great things in your career, be involved in the community, like chase your dreams, like take care of yourself. Like it just feels like we're at a point where so many people struggle to balance and juggle all of that. And they find like they're losing themselves. So I was just curious from like a career coach leadership perspective. Have you seen a shift in that over the years in your coaching of individuals? Have you helped any? I'm saying it's probably primarily women who maybe juggle all of that, but maybe not. I mean, I'm sure there's many men that still have that same family, work, home life, community too.
Coaching, sport.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. All of the different things.
Yeah. Not like women. Not like women. Men can't hold a candle to what women do. They can't.
But it's not really something we should be proud of.
Well,
because it's destroying many of us, right?
Yeah, somehow it got to be, task focused or something like that. Whereas, and I don't want to go out on a limb. I can't speak for women. I can tell you, I've told Jenny this. Most of my clients that I've coached have been women. And the one like Cheryl, and the ones that I've had maybe 2 men, and the rest are women that I've enjoyed the most because of the depth of who they are and their explanations. I'll tell you what I've seen change, and this is just as much has to do with the society piece. The reason when women the reason women got behind in salaries is they had to quit their jobs when they had kids. Mm-hmm. So when they came back into the workforce, it's like, well, you're not that anymore. Mm-hmm. You were on the JV team. Well, I can't put you on the varsity. You just got to go back and, and so that's all bullshit. And so the changes, I think that, let me just say this. I don't think a guy has any clue on the day in, day out pressure of what it takes to balance raising a family and being responsible for a family and having a job. Men can say, oh, well, I'm the breadwinner. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that men are not involved or they're more involved now. There are a lot. I've got some one generation younger than me of relatives, cousins, and one couple where the Jenny is a superstar attorney on the West Coast, and her husband has a very interesting and job, and I think the marketing field. 2 great kids, and it's like, how do you do it? Where's the balance? And because they can afford it, like people that are being able to have those kind of substantial jobs, they have help.
Yeah.
So. But what's different is, I think it is, and I think this is morphing with this new latest generation of, and I don't know, you would have a better idea with, Erin, maybe with your daughter or that age. And I don't fully, because I've been out of it a little bit here, is if it's a matter of making a choice of I'm going to have more work-life balance, or it's just a different way to do it. And, I'm not going to be thinking, okay, it's going to be on a scale somehow.
I have 2 daughters. And they have different views on this, but they both reject the status quo of today, the way that women act today. So one is leaning more towards wanting to have children, but not working as much because she doesn't want to do both. And one leans more towards independence. Like she doesn't want to rely on her husband or a significant other to take care of her. She wants to feel like she is in control of that and has a certain sense of security or freedom. Yeah, I think those are the right words, security or freedom, that comes with having her own independence. But she really does see that having children and doing that is going to be a challenge. And I think they've watched our generation and can see that is bullshit, right? But it's, how do you balance that? I think it's in, I don't know how much society is changing, but there's a lot of discussion around the masculine role. And taking on more of the silent mental load. Yeah. That is like a huge complaint. And I don't even think I was aware of that until I started seeing people talk about it, how much of my day was spent thinking around everybody else's needs and to-dos, and how do we manage all of that, right?
You mean in your family or in general?
For myself, how much that I was doing that, how much energy that was taking from me. And then my spouse is very supportive, but it was delegation too. Right. So I had to delegate it. And he always would do it if I'd ask.
Right. You just have to, I've never said that. Well, you just have to ask.
But then when it opened up more discussions between us, and then there were things that he took on that are not, he does the cooking in our house. That's a huge load, like groceries and prepping and all of, there's a huge load there. So
absolutely.
It's about starting to divvy up some of those responsibilities that I don't have to think about what's for supper tonight. But I do think, oh, Bodhi needs a dentist appointment next week, right? Like, so sharing some of that load so that maybe you can have the career and the children and be part of a community. But so often we lose self in that. And that may just be a phase in the life of us having children.
So there's a place somewhere. Now, I don't have children, so I can't say that I've experienced this personally. There's a place for everyone at which you say, well, it's time to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And when does that happen? I mean, climbing ladders, it's kind of hard to get. There's a lot of pressure. Nobody's had this, my mom worked with my dad. I mean, she had a job when she was a business owner, when most women didn't work like that. So what am I trying to say? I think, Jenny, to your point, is there something different? There is a difference, I think, but I'm going back 30 years when it was clear that when a woman left the workforce and came back, it was not necessarily, it's clearly not like it is now. I think it's been more defined, but I also think that if you're at what point, well, I see a couple of ways that people go at it. At what point do you get off the treadmill? For some people, it's when we have enough money stashed.
Yeah.
And don't have to. And for other people, it's like, okay, so what's really important to us now? I want to go see my kid. I want to go see my kid play volleyball over the weekend at college, at her school.
Yeah. It's that measure of success being and it's different for everybody, but if you're really struggling, how can you bring it back to joy? And then does your situation allow for you to, change the income? I understand that's not something everybody can do.
Well, and there's another alternate there when people hit that wall is when their body tells them they have no other choice. Right? Because of the stress that we put our bodies through.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's don't go to medical school. Don't do it. I'm begging you, if you don't want to make that kind of investment, then where's the should? I mean, it's like, what is a role we collectively, individually could play to help people build bridges? and seek what's important, meaning and purpose for them, it's shedding some of this shit. I mean, it's like it's okay. It's really okay. We won't have as much money. I ain't so what? So what? I mean, but I think what's different and unique and gives me hope with a new generation, and kids don't want to work as hard. They're more concerned about leaving work at 4 o'clock on Friday. And
Okay, side note on that, I'm just going to go on a little vent because I have to. I have to get it out there this season, and we're almost done with this season.
Yep.
The reason why so many of those kids are doing that, the young ones, is because moms and dads are supplementing their financial lives. So if moms and dads would stop paying their car payment and stop paying their car insurance and let them actually be real adults and feel the weight of it, then they'd have to be in there working, and it wouldn't be optional, right? Like this helicopter parent generation, Matt and I just don't understand it at all. And we're just kind of raising our daughters that they're the only ones out of the house on their own now, the way that we were raised. Like, okay, you're an adult. This is what adulthood is like.
I mean, when is enough enough?
Yeah. When do we stop financially supplementing our adult children's lives? I don't understand that in today's world, but I do think that directly leads into the problems that we're seeing with young adults in the workforce.
Yeah.
You make a great point.
I remember telling my girls when they moved out, and they were afraid, and we went through and set up a budget so they'd understand what, how that was all going to work. And I remember just telling them over and over again, you're going to figure this out. I believe in you more than you believe in yourself right now. And trust me, when you make it and you get there, you're going to realize what I'm saying. But before you make the leap, it is scary. It's super scary. But I think it does a lot for adult children to say to adult children, you got this. Like, I believe in you. And isn't that a leadership skill that we want to be seeing everywhere? It's a personal development tool to show your confidence in someone else, to give them a project that is bigger than they think that they can handle, just outside of their comfort zone, right? To keep moving them forward, and that your confidence in them ultimately builds their confidence when they prove that they can do it.
Great point. Excellent point.
Yeah. And reminding, whether it be your children or the people that work with you, like, and I'm always here. Like,
yes.
Doors open. Yeah. Just.
Well, there is clearly a parallel about what happens in the world of work.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah.
But it's so much more emotional with kids, for sure.
Yeah.
Your own kids.
Absolutely. So we did get a couple of questions from some listeners. And one of them was, how do you show up authentically in a corporate culture? So you're saying show up authentically, show up as you. And how do you do that in a corporate culture? Like, rapid fire, what would you say?
I'd say just like you would any place else. Smile on your face, eye contact, listen to what people have to say, respond, reflect back, be appropriate with your reactions. Don't be somebody you're not.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Oh, you're the CEO. Wow, what a pleasure. What an honor. I met Pete Buttigieg last week. Pete Buttigieg was at Democratic headquarters in Fond du Lac. I looked at him and I said, you are such an inspiration. Because he is, to me.
Yeah.
What, Mr. Buttigieg, what do you think about? I don't give a shit what he thinks about. So what does it mean to be authentic? You got to, some people, this isn't easy. I understand that. So Jenny, my technique is you have to teach people the first sentence. So that's a long-winded answer. Give them the first thing that they need to say.
Which is?
Hi, my name is Alan Patterson. How are you? Pleasure to meet you. You are?
Yeah.
And tell me what you do here. And
So to paraphrase, it would be curiosity. That's what I'm hearing you say. Like, can you be authentically curious about the other person and get to know them as them versus their title?
That's right.
Or what you think. Like, because I was just recently having a conversation with someone and they were talking about a team member, and it was like immediately jumping to an assumption. And it was like, well, can you put that assumption aside and just be curious about what's going on for them?
You hit it. That's it. That's exactly it. I'm thinking back on some of the people that I met. I'm sure, since this is all about me and my examples, I'm sure come on. I told you that somebody stood up at a workshop one time and said, hi, my name is Alan Patterson and I'm curator of mammals. So let me ask you a question. How many curator of mammals have you met in your life? I said, that's pretty neat. I don't know what the hell it means, but I just like the way it sounds. That's just fun. That's just crazy. And then the titles that some people give themselves is like, oh my God, you don't have to be all those things. Just
right.
So just take a breath. We're just all the same. I don't give a shit what anybody says politically. We all need and want the same thing. Just give up all the other stuff. Just give it up.
Yeah.
Give it up and stop beating yourself up and start doing what's critical and important to you. You have my permission and I am no one. You don't need to. I got permission from no one.
Oh, that's great. I know we've kind of danced all over the place a little bit, but there's a lot that I'm walking away with around, what is the measure for those that maybe are experiencing burnout or just, balancing a lot right now. Some of the questions would be, what is your measure of success instead of money? Could it be joy? Or maybe it depends on the day, right? Like there can be movement in that. But I also really like that idea of just looking at what is your silent mental load and how and who can you share that with?
I think there's another thing to add to that, though, would be the shoulds.
Yeah.
So there's so much that women are told they need to be doing to be considered a good mother, a good employee, a good community member, right? And how many of that list in your head are shoulds and how many of those can come off, and the world keeps going round and round.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your world keeps going round and round. Yeah. It's should is a tough word. Laden with expectations. It's just something. But I love the idea, and I think this is a bit of the Zen, leap and the net will appear, kind of like you're telling your daughters, you'll do this. You'll understand this. You'll get through this. You'll fall on your face. You may get your credit report knocked. What? Your life's over? No, your life's not over.
Fail faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, I just think if I'm back into this building bridges mode, you can't, what I'm learning in my later years here is just, it was important but then to understand the real importance and not the gratuitous, oh, I'm going to build relationships so I can, I've said that, be more influential in my job. I'm more persuasive in my job. I think that morphs into something that says, how can I help other people do what they feel is important and brings them meaning? And that's the role. That's not the role. That's the job.
That's the job for sure.
That's our job. That's what our role, our job is. Kids, not kids. Old, not real young, but to know that and understand that. And I don't mean everybody has to go into the helping professions. That's not what I'm suggesting. It's like, I don't know, there's some kick-ass things out there that can be done that nobody's doing. Why? Because nobody's thought of it, or they just don't think they could or should. And it's like, I'll just do it. What the hell?
Yeah.
What's holding you back?
When you started building those connections, was your goal for professional advancement, or were you always somebody who wanted to connect with other people?
My connections, the basis of my connections are really affiliative. They're for just being without so much an agenda. It's just being out there and having lots of.
I think that's an important differentiation, right? When we go back to intent, and people can feel the difference of, are you wanting to connect with me because there's something that you're seeking out of this relationship? Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. But when I feel into my takeaway from this, it's like the servant leadership or transformative leadership, it really can just be summarized about caring about other people. Yeah. That's all you have to do is care about other people.
That's it.
Curious.
There's nothing wrong.
It's nothing like huge or different, but if you just care about the people around you, then you're naturally curious and you want to support them and they want to support you.
That's it.
It's not complicated.
There's no agenda. No agenda. Nick says, can you give me a call? I call him and I'm thinking, okay, it's to talk. He said, how you doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing? I'm okay. Just went ahead and talked to you.
Yeah. Well, and I think as soon as you experience somebody doing that exact thing and are modeling it, it is something that we're not taught, or often we don't know, not everybody listening. I know myself, I didn't experience that until probably midway through my career, where it was really with a leader that did that kind of stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, that felt really good. And I want to do that and be that with and for others. And I was just at an event this morning that was talking about third places and looking at all of this data of how our world, how life is getting better for the majority. And at the same time, I think the statistic was I don't even know, 6% might even be high. 6% would say that life is getting better. And so that's alluding to, most would say life is getting worse. And it's like, well, okay, why is that? Well, long story short, it goes to stress and anxiety, depression, all of the things. But without diving into that, because I know we're getting short on time here, the big takeaway was connection. We need more connection. We need friendships. And part of that is that empathy that is naturally rooted in connection and friendships. And the point that I took away from that conversation this morning was that that's not always something that we're always just innately born with. Many people are, but not everyone is. And there was an interesting look at the influence of technology and social media on our young adults, specifically, those that are just coming into the workforce, and probably even those in school and high school yet, college yet, where their reaction is to do this because their social interaction, this is maybe a little uncomfortable, right? Especially after the pandemic. So the point was reminding people that this is something you can practice and it'll become more natural. That empathy will grow, and that then can make caring for more people in your workplace even more tangible. Because I think, it's easier to distance ourselves from people than actually move in and get to know them.
Yeah, so definitely cell phones and social media have built in that buffer. So it's just, how you doing? It's one-way conversation. So I'm doing good. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing, two thumbs up. Well, the point I think is not the point. A point. What turns me on, I better say this another way. What excites me, what I think, what makes me smile, what gives me hope is what you two are doing.
Mm.
Cool. It's cool shit. It's cool stuff. It's not the editing and it's all that stuff, but there's always a could and should on any of it, but what the hell? You get one or two people to say meaning and purpose. I can do that. I can be that kind of person without being a rabbi. Well, yeah, you can, my son. I can do that by just being like a Jenny Knuth, or you could be like Jenny. That'd be a good role model.
You're gonna make her blush.
Yeah,
I can see.
It's been really, really fun having you on. You bring such a lightheartedness to this that I just so enjoy, because it can get we can take ourselves too seriously in this type of conversation. And why?
No, it's all important, and it's all serious, and it's all who we are. It's just, so we're not that, we're grains of sand, for God's sake.
Yes. Right.
Absolutely. So you guys keep the faith and keep it going and don't stop.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Red Couch. We would love if you would head on over and subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. It helps us tremendously as we rebel against the status quo of disconnection. We need you. We appreciate you. You can also head on over to our website, redcouchrebels.com, to send us a note and explore your inner rebel with us on our online network. We'd love to see you there.